The disappearance of Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 has raised the disturbing question, how can an aircraft packed with full of various communication systems just vanish without a trace? How is that possible? Well, tracking until recently was just nice to have for an operator. They didn't have to do it. It was ATC that was typically responsible for surveillance and oversight and knowing where the aircraft is, but its primary role was not tracking of aircraft, it was separation of aircraft in a given airspace. So if an airliner wanted to know where the aircraft is, they would typically contact ATC to ask the question or to listen to the same radio frequencies as the pilot. So then how are aircraft being tracked today? Well, there are various systems out that are used by the air traffic services and sometimes even by the operator that would enable aircraft tracking. The first system is the pilot reporting system. So that was how it all started and how aviation got invented. The first aircraft position reporting system was a radio. Pilots would use a VHF or HF radio for voice communications, and they use that system to also just relay positional reports from where their flight track is. The problem is, though, with this system was that as soon as you got too far away from the transmission towers, you wouldn't be able to pick up the signal anymore, particularly when you're flying, say, over oceans. So the primary radar system was then invented. This came out in the late 1930s, and so this is the type of system that you would typically get the image of when you think of an air traffic controller. It's that green blimp that they see and look into with a white blimp that just turns around and puts up dots on the screen. Well, that's kind of what a radar system is and how they observe aircraft tracking and be able to separate the aircraft using a radar system. But the problem is with this system is once you go out to a certain distance, say 240 kilometers out to sea or more, and radar coverage starts fading. And it also fades when you're at a lower altitude or lower height. So because of the Earth's curvature. So it brought about its issues as well. It was limited. So they brought out the secondary radar system, which is the transponder signals that an aircraft sends out from the aircraft. Now you can receive those on the ground as well. And these are terrestrial based. They were great because ATC can now receive position reporting from secondary radar systems. The problem is that was never accessible to an operator. Operator didn't have anything. So they also invented in the late 60s, 70s, the ACARS reporting system, which allowed an AOC, an airline operational center, to actually transmit data to an aircraft or text messages and the aircraft to communicate back down in a certified manner. And this was accessible now to the operator, but not accessible to the ATC. But that evolved as well to a technology we know as data link, and so now we know that the ATC can receive data, text messages in a certified manner from an aircraft to relay its position. And we also have the evolution of what we know as ADS-B technology, which is that an aircraft flies and a transponder sends out signals from the aircraft, and this is picked up by terrestrial ground-based receivers, and this would bring about the position of the aircraft as well. It is great over land-based areas. But then there is the issue over oceans. How do you get that signal over oceans? Well, that's where you need satellite-based systems again. And so that's where ADS-C comes in. You can have a contracted ATC messaging system, so you can relay your position reports to an ATC while you're over an ocean, for instance. And this is used by the ATC system. And then the best system is, of course, the satellite tracking system. So this is the autonomous system that you put on the aircraft. It's installed there and it uses the aircraft GPS position, and it would relay information from the air to the ground, to the AOC, to the operations center, via a satellite system, such as the Iridium satellite network or Inmarsat or someone else. And this is not going to the ATC, this typically goes to the operations center. And so they now know where the position is of the aircraft in a reliable way.